if you put yourself in the arena to be hit and someone hits you hard, then whose fault is that?
Well, you expect to be hit by other women, not men.
Hey guys, welcome to another Quick Hits video. I'm Brad Polumbo, and this is the series where I give you my quick reaction on breaking stories and viral moments. Today we're going to react to a couple clips of the journalist. I'm saying that with air quotes, Don Lemon, who was fired from CNN. He did an interview on Piers Morgan Uncensored, and everything about it was awful. I feel like I lost brain cells listening to it. I genuinely feel dumber, but I listened to the whole thing so that you don't have to, and we're going to react to a couple of the most bizarre and obnoxious clips. The first one came when Piers asked Don about what should be an extremely common sense, easy answer for any sane person, Democrat, Republican, Independent, which is about the issue of biological males competing in women's sports, in many cases involving athletes who identify as transgender, but in some cases involving athletes with rare genetic conditions like Iman Khalif, who are biologically male but appear female and were mistaken for female at birth. She's the Algerian, I believe, boxer who won Olympic gold, I believe, because she beat women up quite forcefully in almost an unnatural way. Well, Piers likes to ask Democrat or liberal-leaning guests about this to just kind of give them a sanity check, and Don Lemon failed. Listen to his response.
You saw a young female Italian boxer quit after 40 seconds because she'd never been hit that hard and genuinely feared for her life. And Iman Khalif goes on to win gold medal at the Olympics. Does that not ring an alarm bell for you, Don? I mean, do you not think that the reason we separate sexes in the Olympics is because males have an advantage? I mean, why would you not think that's important? It's
Do you want me to tell
medal.
you the truth?
Yeah.
Let me tell you, Piers, I'll tell you the truth about this. I heard about this story, but it's not something that I focus on. I'm not watching the Olympics like that. Maybe I'm different. I'm just not. I'm not that interested in watching everything. I like to watch the swimming. I like to watch the gymnasts. I'm not interested in boxing or any of that because I think it's a brutal sport anyway. So for me, it's just not that interesting.
So this is just not a good answer at all. You're asked about this enormous cultural and political controversy, and you're like, well, I'm not personally a fan of boxing. Yeah, you don't have to be to understand that somebody with male chromosomes competing in women's boxing and pummeling women, hitting them harder than they've ever been hit before, is insane and points to the absurdity of self-ID and just allowing people to compete however they feel in their identity. Although Iman Khalif, to be clear, is not a trans woman that results from a rare genetic condition, it's still a big issue. And there was also huge widespread gaslighting from the media who told us, no, Iman Khalif is biologically female. Then we found out, once again, that was not true. Anyway, just saying I don't care about this or I'm not into sports, so it doesn't bother me if we break down biology and basic fairness is not a good response, Don, but it didn't really get better. Here's the rest of his response to this question.
Interesting. I'm sorry that anybody was hit that hard, but if you put yourself in the arena to be hit and someone hits you hard, then whose fault is that?
Well, you expect to be hit by other women, not men.
Well, I don't know that. I don't know who she expected to be hit
women,
by.
we call it
I'm sure she saw. I'm sure whoever was in that competition understood who they were going into the ring with. And if you put yourself in that competition in the middle of a ring where punches are being thrown, then you can expect to get hit hard, whether it is a man or a woman. And that's all I have to say about that.
So you would have no objection to men fighting women in a boxing ring?
I did not say that. I just said that's all I have to say about that.
But isn't that the implication of what you're saying?
No, I've said in many different ways, that's all I have to say about that.
This is so bizarre. Him clamming up and being like, that's all I have to say about it. That's all I have to say about it. It genuinely gives scared because Don Lemon has tried to reposition himself as this fierce, independent journalist doing his own podcast and Substack or whatever. But he seems like afraid to say the wrong thing and possibly offend a trans activist or a TikToker or something. I don't know. But it should not be hard to say that biological males should not, in fact, be boxing biological females in female-only competitions. And he seemed to kind of say it, but then say also, well, that's what you signed up for. It's what you asked for. Yeah, no, they signed up to box other females. And the only choice was to either what? forfeit and disqualify yourself and lose out on a once-in-a-lifetime Olympic opportunity, or box a biological male? Yeah, actually, women who had to compete in the Olympics against Iman Khalif were put in a tremendously unfair position. And it's not something you should just laugh at and say, well, they signed up for it. Nothing else to say. Nothing else to say. Nothing else to say. Like, this almost seems like a politician, the way that politicians are deathly afraid to say the wrong thing or get themselves in trouble. But as a media person, especially an independent media person, who doesn't even have to worry about getting fired by some big company, you're supposed to have a little bit of authenticity and willingness to engage and answer questions. It's like bizarrely defensive. It shows you, I think, how many on the progressive side of media are genuinely scared of the activist groups coming after them, so they won't even say extraordinarily commonsensical things. And Don just melted down in this interview. It was actually, I love Piers's show. I have a appreciation for the Jerry Springer style of political debate that it sometimes devolves into. It's my guilty pleasure, as much as I think maybe it's not the best thing for, the country, but it is entertaining and often insightful and important. But I will say Don Lemon was like uniquely whiny and immature and juvenile in the way that he melted down and played the victim and started a whole fight with Piers when Piers just asked him basic questions about his firing from CNN. Listen to this.
This is what led to you leaving CNN. Let's take a look at the clip.
She says people, politicians or something are not in their prime. Nikki Haley isn't in her prime. Sorry. When a woman is considered to be in her prime in her 20s and 30s and maybe 40s.
What are you talking? Wait.
That's not according to me.
Prime for what?
It depends. I mean, it's just like prime. If you look it up, if you Google when is a woman in her prime, it'll say 20s, 30s, and 40s. I don't necessarily.
40s. So I got another.
I'm not saying
decade.
I agree with that. So I think she has to be careful about saying that.
When you watch that, Don, I happened to be watching that live, and I was like, "Whoa, what did you just say?" What do you? I mean, if you had a do-over, would you say that again? I mean, what led you to say that?
Okay, Piers, let me just say this. I'm going to answer your question, but just so the audience knows, and I hope you don't cut this out, when I asked you what subjects you wanted to talk about, you know what you said to me? You said, I want to talk to you about freedom of speech in America and the response to Charlie Kirk's death.
Yeah.
Not once did you mention that we were going to talk about CNN or whatever. So, and had I known that, I probably wouldn't have accepted this interview. You have invited me on many times, and I tell you, Piers, I know you. I would come on your show, but I don't do panels. And so when you said I'm not going to be involved in a panel, I agreed to come on your show. But I thought you would also stick by the subjects that you told me that you were going to talk about.
Just to be clear,
rather than try to ambush me with something.
Just to be clear,
so,
you and
yes.
I haven't. Well, Don, just to be clear, you and I haven't had any conversation about your appearance here. You're talking about my team talking to you.
Yeah, no, and I saw you, Piers, in a restaurant, and I said, hey, Piers, good to see you.
Yeah.
I would come on your show, but I don't do panels.
Right.
And I said the same
panel.
thing to your bookers.
There's only one
and
of
so
you,
when
Don.
I asked you, right. Okay, and so, yes, and I said that's why I agreed to do it. But when you asked me, or when your team asked me what subjects, and I asked them 2 or 3 times, I have the text messages, what do you want to cover?
Yeah.
Not once was CNN mentioned. So I don't appreciate being ambushed. But let me answer your question
Hang on one second. Oh, Don, hang on 1 second. Let's just be crystal clear about what's just happened. You brought up the subject of cancel culture. I asked you, did you feel your departure from CNN was an example of that? And you answered the question. And I think it's perfectly reasonable.
And I answered the question.
Perfectly reasonable in that if you'd said to me, I don't want to talk about it, it's fine. You said what you're going to say. By the way, we don't.
Disingenuous.
What? Why is he so obsessed with being a victim? It is totally fair for a host in a 40-minute interview to ask you about things that were not specifically mentioned in the list of oh yeah, we're going to talk about this, this, and that, things that are related. They don't have to send you an itemized list of every possible issue that will come up. And you just sound like a snowflake saying, I don't appreciate being ambushed. Is it an ambush for people to ask you about highly relevant things that happened to you in an interview about cancel culture and free speech? And the strange thing is that if there's some reason Don Lemon can't talk about it, and I'll be fair to him, there may be some sort of legal dispute, some sort of contractual provision where he can't really talk about CNN. All he would have to say is, Piers, I'd love to answer that question, but I'm not really at liberty to speak about my time at CNN. And I think Piers, being a media pro and having been in this business a long time, would know that means he has some sort of NDA, some sort of non-disparagement clause, some sort of settlement, some sort of contractual provision he agreed to when he left. anything like that, and he would just move on. But instead, Don had to play the victim and act like mean Piers ambushed him. Oh my gosh, it's exhausting. And frankly, I think this is why Don Lemon leaving CNN was not some great loss. Everything I've ever heard about him is that he's just like a whiny prima donna who doesn't actually offer any kind of political insight or unique reporting chops that make it worth it to deal with him on a daily basis, because this interview confirmed just about everything about Don Lemon that I suspected, and it's why I personally will not, with the occasion of a rare clip going viral, never really for good reasons, I will not be tuning in to the Don Lemon show anytime soon. Though I wish him the best. I really do. What do you guys think? Are you big Don Lemon fans? Can you believe CNN let this star talent get away from them? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure you're subscribed if you aren't yet. Hit that like button. Let me know what you think of these quick hit style videos in the comments. And also be sure to subscribe to listen to full episodes of my daily podcast, Bread versus Everyone, where I take on internet insanity, media craziness, and political madness, all from an independent perspective. The links to subscribe to the podcast are, of course, in the description. And guys, with that, we'll be back with more real soon.